Okay. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello.
How exciting to be back.
We're back, and we're in person now.
In our office? This is our office?
Welcome to our space.
I know.
Hey, Real Life Positivity. I'm Jamie.
I'm Amy.
Hey, we're on our 13th episode.
Oh, episode 13.
That's feeling really good today.
It does feel good.
So we are going to be discussing and navigating. Hold on, let me start over. We're going to be discussing navigating the new.
Navigating it.
We're going to navigate that.
That's awesome.
Thanks for your grace, everybody. I'm certainly not a perfectionist.
That's good, but you are a person of excellence. So this will be an excellent episode.
Try to be. We're excited you're here. Thank you so much. We can't imagine all that you're navigating, and it just felt like a really relatable topic. So we wanted to unpack it today and just know that you're in our hearts no matter what your story is, and we all have a story. We've talked about in previous episodes, we all have our own boat, and we're weathering a storm, and there's a lot going on in the world. So we hope you know how important you are, and we're just going to navigate this conversation and all the new.
There is a lot of new. There is a lot of unknown.
Yeah.
And we have some partners in education and when I say that, we mean teachers, counselors, administrators,
Yes.
parents, students, family members, siblings, the whole thing.
Yeah, and community members supporting education, and just like it's kind of the heartbeat of a community in a lot of ways. So
yeah, and I have noticed gets to touch so many of those different supporters and participants, and then because of that, I think you and I have this really full awareness right now of so many stories of people going through navigating kind of the unknown and the excitement. I mean, back to school time is always that way.
Yeah.
But somebody said yesterday in one of the PDs that we did that they wish it was just like normal, like I'm happy to get new school supplies. I want to smell the crayons.
Hey, we still did.
We like the crayons.
I'm like, no matter what it's going to look like, my kids are going to need organizational tools.
Yes.
Right? So they'll need that supplies.
Absolutely.
So we went ahead and still had our joy in that.
Yeah. And there was even a retailer who was like, wherever school's happening, we'll be there. And I love
that.
that.
Too. Good.
That's kind of that could be an I Am Noticed slogan as well. Wherever this is happening for you, like, we're here, and we want to have a conversation about how we can successfully navigate new.
Yeah. So we kind of came up with a metaphor. Like you're driving down the road, but you got to think about if you're going somewhere new. We were both joking, like, okay, we grab our phone, we plug in the address super quick. I have a little thing in my car that like for my pop socket, and I just stick it right there, and I drive, and I can kind of navigate and see where I need to turn, or it tells me however I have it set up. But yeah, I've gotten used to those conveniences, right? It's easy, but I still, as we were thinking about it, like you still have to stop at a stop sign. You're still pausing for a pedestrian, or if an animal or something comes out, you have to be aware of that. So there's so much within just the philosophy of navigating. And I think we're all doing that in the best way we can, the best way we know how.
Yes, and I think, are taking in the information. Sometimes we're even having a hard time figuring out where to take the information in from. I know sometimes one app will give you some information and another app will give you more information. My husband uses Waze.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know this.
And it's amazing, but like it'll pop up and tell you if there maybe is a stalled car on the side of the road or an obstruction in the road. So, and the way that data comes in is people are constantly adding to it. So if you pass something, sometimes we will pass something, he'll say, hey, will you add that to Waze? So it tells the people who are coming behind you.
Very cool.
So awesome, except you're relying on a whole bunch of random people to tell you what they think you should know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, that's something in and of itself. So it's choosing what and how much information you're going to receive and guidance. And when I think about like the good old days of just like you're getting in your car and you're driving and you don't know all the things, you also get lost maybe a lot more
That's
often.
a really good point.
But
I think of that.
It's a lot.
We have, and I think we could dual this a little bit because we are seasoned drivers. We're grown-ups, so we've been driving for a while. So we have those skills and tools that we've practiced. So they become a pattern, but we both have teenagers, right?
Yeah.
So that has been interesting, teaching about driving and navigating. So really there's a lot of parallels with life and our daughters.
Yes. And that comfort level that you have when you have been driving for a while and you kind of just have a sixth sense. And that can be really good. And it can also, I think, to be honest, it can let me kind of let my guard down sometimes and not pay as much attention as I should. So it's been great to be reminded.
And then when they're watching you.
I know. Exactly.
And do as I say.
That's right. I did not just roll through that stuff.
I'll stop twice later.
Oh, that's so, and you know how fast I drive, so that's a problem. The rumors about that are true. I know. So having eyes on you, thank you. Having eyes on you though does help you remember that there's a lot going on here. And so the metaphor for navigating new, thinking about as we enter into a new school year and enter into a space where we need to make choices and decisions and move forward. And sometimes it feels like we can't go yet. We need to. I was just hoping that today we could have a really quick, real life, positive, conversation about how to do that with as much ease as possible. And how we could support one another while we're doing that.
Yeah, I think, I guess going back to like that driving example, my daughter turned 16 in December, and I was really just trying to practice not worrying about her and just
not borrowing any buffaloes.
What do you practice? So I was trying to practice being practical there, but being true to me. And I'm not naturally a huge worrier, but I also feel deeply and I'm all the things and sensitive. And so I was navigating that. And so what I do, actually have a tool there. I would know where she's going, of course, have a pulse, and then I would visualize her arriving. So I would take the worry and replace it. And so one night she's called me and she's like, "Hey mom, I was here. Now I'm headed to have some ice cream with some friends." I'm like, "That sounds great. Have so much fun." So I'm like seeing her eating her ice cream. And we got a call shortly after that, my husband and I did, that she got hit and they took off. So it was super scary. She's totally fine, but such an example of like, I wasn't focusing on that worry, but like life happens, So she is fine. She got a new car, like everything turned out okay, but like she was doing everything right. She didn't do anything wrong in that moment. And their choices impacted her. But we quickly didn't make that a part of our life, right? We like moved through that pretty quickly. And I think we could use that as an example here, that I'm not denying that it was hard. There was lots of heart in that story. I'm not like diving into all the details, but at the end of the day, it was a really short period of time. We navigated it. She's got a new vehicle. She's okay. We are lucky in a lot of ways that the story ended that way. But I guess we can look at that journey as a parallel of navigating new. And so I think looking at that and reflecting, Cora was a hot mess for a second. She was upset. So. But then she was able to use her tools of gratitude and confidence and what do we know for sure about you, and what goodness can we notice about the situation, like kind of thinking about our cycle, like kind of laying it over that word picture. So it kind of all ties in with the navigating and the driving, and I'm not saying it was perfect at all. I think it was lots of highs and lows, but I'm grateful now we can look back. And so I'm looking forward to being able to look back on this time, and hopefully we can feel some gratitude for that too.
Yeah. I think we talk about I am noticed as a proactive approach. And a lot of times we'll say, it's hard to build a boat when you're drowning. And so when I think about what you just shared and having gone through that, second tier with you, and kind of caring so much about, not kind of caring, totally caring so much about Cora and about your family. What I see there is you guys were just you in an unpredictable, unprecedented, tough situation.
Yeah.
And so when you say Cora used her skills, I think that's really true. And so I hope that for those people who've been following I Am Noticed and have been practicing with us for the past few years, to hear this and like feel strong, feel good about the fact that those practices of choosing your attitude and choosing your I ams carefully, making sure you're talking to yourself kindly, and noticing goodness and receiving goodness when it comes back to you, and knowing that you matter, and showing up that in that confident way. Those tools seem so simple. They're just like one nail hammered in at a time, but they build and make us stronger and more confident and resilient. That's the whole reason for them. So that when we have to navigate something that we don't know, instead of our like mental conversation being, I don't want to do this, I don't think I can do this, nobody knows what's going on.
Fixed mindset, right?
Yes.
Like you were saying
Stuck.
in the very beginning of our conversation, like that stuck feeling, like you just can't move. And I mean, there's science behind that, and there's trauma there. So again, we're not denying any of that hard. But I do think it's just having the awareness and hopefully the knowing that you can navigate it and move through it.
And honestly, I think some skepticism for I Am Noticed has been that it's just so simple. The tools are just so simple.
And some of that skepticism comes from us as developers, because we want to make sure we're providing heartfelt, scientific, proven information and strategies and tools. So some of that comes from us. Yeah. But then being able to see it.
And seeing it in action, and knowing that when we do invite people and ourselves to practice those things, we are stronger. We are more confident. We are more resilient. And so then when we have to navigate something, we take the information we have and we make the next logical decision. And then what happens when we do it wrong, or we make a mistake, or things didn't go right? Guess what? We make the next logical, confident decision
at a time. And I want to just add, you experienced that too with your oldest daughter.
Yeah.
A very similar situation. So it's not just
staying car accidents. And honestly, I recently Carl was saying to the girls, like, the most dangerous thing he's done as a parent is buy them cars. And so there is an inherent risk to living life and putting ourselves out there and navigating these spaces. And so I didn't remember feeling like that as a kid. I was like, let's go, do it. Right. So, but there is like an awareness, and I think that what that brings to mind, I don't know that we were even going to talk about this necessarily, but in the last couple of days with the PDs that we've done, or the last couple of weeks, there have been some new teachers right out of college, getting ready to teach for the first time. And in some ways, I could parallel that to how I felt as a new driver. It's like, let's go.
That pure
excitement,
bliss, and just almost a little naiveness in a kind of a good way. Just there's an open road. Let's go.
And in the cases that we have gotten to talk with those people, they've really tapped into their why, because they're not very far from it. They just got that diploma that says they get to do their thing that they feel called to do.
Very fresh for them.
So cool. And so let's like look at navigating and talk about a few tools. That first one might be, you said you put it in your phone where you want to go. Yeah. So like that first thing might be knowing your why. What do you want here? What's the
getting your heart set and that intention?
That really getting that want to. So good. So make sure you know where you want to go. And I think one thing that I have heard repeatedly that I think is really helpful there is, no matter what, I want kids to know that they're supported. I want my kids to know, if I'm the parent, if I'm looking at it from the parent lens, and I'm going to be helping them with some virtual learning, as a teacher, I want my kids to know that I'm doing the very best I can, and then I'm showing up, and then I'm here to support them in their learning. And that one thing is like not enough to lay out all the lesson plans, but it is a great
it does
start.
It kind of helps get your heart set. And then I would say if that feels too daunting or that's too big, like, we also use the gratitude here. So like, what are you grateful for? Be grateful that you have an opportunity to impact a child's life in some way, shape, or form. And I say a child loosely, like from preschool to senior or college. So I think that gratitude is a really great tool here too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because I've used that. Like there's been days or moments where I definitely have gratitude, but it can just be like, what do I need? The air that I'm breathing. Like that gratitude you can just go back down to some really simple, basic needs of life.
And so it's interesting. We've talked a lot lately about duality and how there's like good and bad, and we're really complex people. When you say I need air and I have air to breathe and I can be grateful for it, you're not negating the things that you still need to get that you don't have yet. It's just that it kind of starts to harmonize or balance out in your brain that there's good and bad. It's not all hard.
For sure.
So
that's what you're
love
choosing.
that.
It's what you're feeding and what you're feeling. So.
Sometimes optimism gets kind of a bad rap, like it's like you're not being realistic if you're optimistic. And so I think I've said for many years, like I'm an optimistic realist because I want people to know that I'm not just like
relatable.
Yeah, and I'm not just blowing off all the other stuff. But what I find crazy interesting is there are so many people who don't use optimism at all as a tool because they're trying to be realistic. And in all reality, that's a really limited view as well. And so being able to say I'm grateful for the air, and I'm also in need of this road construction to not be here so that I can get to where I want to go, whatever that is. That's what
these 22 detours.
Yes.
I have them. So what am I going to choose? What's my attitude? What's my attitude towards the situation? What am I grateful for? And then once we get through that, coming up in here into the headspace and simple, just quick, like what do I know for sure? Okay, I am patient. I am okay. I'm safe, or whatever that language might be. Hopefully you're being kind to yourself and that rhetoric internally, your internal dialogue, and what you're saying out loud to everybody else and how that impacts people. So and kind of like when we hear things a lot, they become our reality. So just our words matter so much. So hopefully you're having good conversation with yourself because it's a big conversation for your life. So be sweet to you, please.
So good.
And again, like you said earlier, you gave me a nice compliment. Thank you. It's like just being a person of excellence. I'm not perfect, but just being the best version of myself. So I can still push myself, right? I think we get confused about that self-talk sometimes. Maybe I did as a teenager. That's why I bring it up a lot, because like I wasn't very nice to myself. I was pushing myself so much. But then when I realized, hey, I'm not this way to anybody else, why on earth would I treat me mean? So that's not cool. So once I was able to like kind of dial in and understand me and what I needed there, that was able to grow.
And if you've never done something before, it's ridiculous to think that you would just rock it, right? That's why I'm such a fun person to golf with, if you don't mind that I don't golf well. I don't practice it enough to golf well. I think I would if I practiced it often, but I don't. So there was a point where I was really hard on myself about being a bad golfer, and a friend of mine who's a golfer is like, how often are you playing?
Hello.
Great question, And so it'd be like, in my mind, I liken it to if you like had a toddler or a baby trying to learn to walk and you're like mad at them for not figuring it out yet.
Screaming them that they're not in the Olympics yet.
It's just stupid. It's like, because if you haven't done something before, it's not going to come as easy or look the same. And so I think with knowing that as the people around us, as we are entering back into the education space, that there are so many things, so many variables that are looking different. There's got to be an adjustment, a recalibration in our expectation for ourselves. And I've heard so many educators say, but that hasn't changed in terms of what's expected that we teach our kids. And as we figure that out together, and as those standards get a little understood, I think that we'll all feel better. But right now, just breathing and saying, we don't exactly know what this is, and I know I'm going to be the best version of me, whatever that is. And that's enough.
Absolutely. And those can be really quick moments, like I was saying earlier, like quick gratitude of, oh, I'm thankful for the air that I'm breathing, and I'm back to my navigating. A quick capture of, I'm resilient, right? Or I am patient, or whatever those little words are that you could, you've got a lot of hours in the day. That can just be a quick thought that you're intentional about. I really do think it's a good, valuable tool.
Yeah. And right now, I think people are needing some encouragement. And so just knowing that, and if you're watching us, you might naturally be a noticer, but just knowing that that's just so helpful, that tool. Obviously noticing the goodness in yourself, like you said, you making sure that you're talking to yourself nice. But being able to give people just even the smallest of compliments or the smallest of validations. I see you, I hear you, you matter to me. I'm watching people just soak it up and need it, and really fueling people. And so in a space where I think we can sometimes feel like, I don't know what to do. This is all so overwhelming. I don't know what to do. Those little tiny moments, who could you notice? And could you shoot them a quick text or send them a quick email? Or
it might even be in your own house.
That's a great point. Great point. After a few months of living together, maybe you haven't noticed for a while. So absolutely. So just, I know I've been guilty of that too. We get kind of comfortable in our own spaces. So whoever's around you that you could notice, and then in I am noticed form, be ready to receive it, because it will come back to you. So I love yesterday during one of the sessions, a teacher said, I've never thought of it before as it helps people if I say thank you when someone gives me.
I liked how she said that too.
Goodness. So cool. I thought that was really cool. She's like, it actually is helping everybody if I keep it going and I don't just squash it by horse noises or whatever. So
absolutely. So that was her frame. And we could talk about that all day. We had another teacher that wasn't in a very good space, and she was apologetic for not being in a receiving space, but appreciated our time. And so what's, I think, a great reminder of that is sometimes when we're in a journey and we're navigating in a way where we kind of need that immediate gratification, or we're used to those results happening really fast right in front of us. That training for her, it was hard for her to sit in that space in that moment. But like my hope and our hope is that she's hearing those messages throughout this whole school year, and they'll work for her if they're going to work later. So it's not always just right there. We think about navigating too.
Absolutely. And then, so we've been super excited to talk about ripples, and that's kind of maybe like the pinnacle tool right here.
I think we maybe talked about this story a little bit on our series here on YouTube, but we were in a school where this person that had a direct ripple effect on both of us was in the room. And so I think we were able to notice, both of us were able to notice him, and it was just such a cool feeling. And we had been home after spring break, and my son was a 7th grader at that time, and one of his teachers, several of his teachers, had amazing communication. I don't want to not take a moment to recognize them and appreciate them, and I have personally with each of them, but this particular message just kind of struck me in the moment. I was reading it, and it was like, we were in resiliency mode, right? We were problem solving mode. Like I was on the road headed that way, and there was a couple detours, and I was doing what I could. And if I was a young mom, kids would have been crying. All the things, right? So just navigating so much new in that moment, and I really hadn't taken a lot of time to feel what that was feeling like. I was just kind of on autopilot. And there was lots of words about instruction and what the next steps were, but then there was this last little paragraph at the end of his email. This was to families and students. And he said, I just want to look back on this time and be proud of who I am and how I handled this. And at that time, we didn't know if that was 2 weeks or 2 years, or we still don't know, right? So I was impressed by his words, and they struck me. And I did have a connection with him and a relationship with him. So I just knew his heart and his creativity and his confidence, and admired him. And I just bawled like a baby. It just hit me. It was so beautiful, So immediately I talked to my son about it, and then I shared it with my daughter and my husband, and then we're talking on a Zoom meeting at the time we were home, and I explained it to you and read it to you, and then you were crying, we did that, and all the things. And then
I just kind of kept that as a mantra for me for
we did too. We adopted it as a mantra.
Brought it into so many thoughts that it became subconscious, but I made the choice to really adopt, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? How do I want to be proud? And what ripples do I want to put out as a result of this time? And one of the choices that I made was to make sure to take care of me, because we are always telling other people that. And one area where I have struggled to do that in is with my body, what I eat, how I move. And to be honest, in a lot of ways, I felt like I was making effort to do those things. And really, it was more just thinking about it, worrying about it, spending energy on it, but I wasn't really taking action about it. And I just was like, I want to be proud of how I've handled this time. I had more time. And so I started walking, and I started watching what I eat. And I think it's really big. It's weird for me to talk about, to be honest. I like the look on your face because you're a good friend, but it's weird for me to talk about. But I'm 30 pounds lighter than I was in March, which is crazy. Thank you. Yeah. I feel so much better, and I feel so much more confident.
It is not the weight. It's not the weight that I'm doing this for. And we've talked about this, but I just kind of want to clarify here, because it is us. We're very dear friends and colleagues. And so I love it. And I want to notice you in this moment, because I'm proud of you for making you a priority, which you do that anyway. But I think there was a shift that it was like, I'm going to do this. It was a little tenacity and a little bit of going against the grain of like, the norm was like COVID-15, gaining the weight. Yeah. So I like that.
Maybe that's what I needed, was a little rebellion.
There you go.
I don't know.
Now the truth's coming out.
Honoring.
But I just wanted to compliment you on, again, the navigation piece of this, not necessarily your outcome or the end result.
Yeah. And I would say that the outcome or end result is still evolving. And I think that's one thing that's interesting. When we have a big thing to tackle, a lot of times I think we want to get to this place, to this finish line. And actually the last several months in this specific area for me have been a really, truly, it's so cliche, but it's like about the journey. It's been about the daily, how do I feel? And paying attention to that and making sure that I keep it simple and just kind of stay true to me in that whole process. And I think there's a reason why people write whole books on their weight loss journey or on their life experiences, because there's a lot to unpack there, but really it's simple. I had to know me. So people say a lot of times, what does self-care look like? And I'll say the first step is self-awareness. You've got to slow it down. And one thing that time gave me was time to slow it down. Maybe that doesn't apply right here, right now, but I do think that when there's a negative, there's always a positive. And we were saying we have all this time that we're supposed to be doing these other things. And I think being open to growing and how can I use it was important. But who I became as a result of those choices is a far greater joy than the result, for sure. I think that's just always how it is. And so, I love noticing. And yesterday, getting an opportunity to tell the person who started the ripple, who was the rock, in that ripple, that I was impacted. And that person had no idea. That message was never sent to me. So that person had no idea that there was going to be impact with me there. And I know what I believe about ripples is that that's going to keep going. Who knows who's going to be impacted by that? Now you guys will hear that. Yeah. And so it just keeps going. And what I hope for everyone, I think, is that they get that moment where they find out that they had a ripple that made a significant impact. I love it when people can kind of step into their own worth that way and they realize, oh wait, I was just being me.
Yeah, and I do think I love how you said that, because I really believe it could be a tiny moment.
Yeah.
Or it could be a grand moment.
Yeah.
And again, those outcomes, like how that's rippling, it's not like, okay, if I do this, then 10 people will be this. Yeah. It's just kind of that organic growth. and that organic spread of goodness that we completely crave, especially right now.
So I want to be that rock. I mean, I know you do too. Like, I'm driven, and I think that that when we get to work with people, we're like, and they're like, oh, we're your people, or I'm your person, and when there's a connectivity there, which I hope there is with you, whoever's listening to this message. I think one thing that kind of connects all of us is that desire to, no matter the circumstances, no matter what we're trying to navigate or where we are, be that positive impact.
Absolutely.
And so one of the thoughts about a call to action today would be just to consider that. How do I want to be that impact? And what's the exact, like, who do I want to be, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to look back on this time and be proud of who you are? And on a personal note, we lost my father-in-law a few years ago, and his mantra was he was just so proud of everybody. And not everybody, but if he was proud of you, he told you. Mm-hmm. And you always knew Bud would be proud of you. So I took that to a deeper level, and that I wanted to be proud of myself. Mm-hmm. And like, would Bud be proud of me? Like somebody that you love and admire, and would they be proud of you? And again, I hope you hear our hearts here. This is not perfection. No. There are buckets full of grace here. And I think societally, and just knowing people, that we are a driven society, and we feel like it has to look a certain way, or we have to drive the right car to get to the right place at the right time. And I think why we love the metaphor with the driving and just the navigating is relatable. But I hope you can feel that it really is just about showing up, right? Getting in your car, plugging in the address, going where you need to go, and just showing up, being the best version of yourself. Yeah. And we always hope that looks like there's confidence in there, right? And you're proud of who you are. That's what that means. Yeah. And that looks different for everybody. And we celebrate you, and we celebrate who you are and your story, just to kind of sandwich that message. But
speaking of stories, like a little call to action.
Yeah.
What if you took a few minutes and wrote a letter to yourself about who you want to be as you enter into and navigate this new time?
Yeah, so we've had since March with a lot of the new, and now there's new as we move into the fall, and with school and what's happening in our country, and there's been all kinds of things there too. So yeah, taking time to reflect and like what you want there.
Yeah, so it's kind of like taking the moment to type in the address of where you want to go. Who do I want to be while I navigate?
And just like when you plug in that address, you don't know how many stop signs you're going to hit, or if there's going to be detours. It's just more about the why and the what.
I love that.
I'm going to do that.
You're going to do it?
Yeah, like tonight.
Okay. I love that.
Friends, we appreciate you. I love you.
I love you.
I love
too.
you.
I love you too.
Hey, we can support you and serve you. Please continue to tune in. We will be recording an episode a month for the rest of the year, and then we'll kind of regroup after 2020, and hopefully we'll keep this going. But we're doing professional developments. We love working with kids. We don't know what assemblies will look like, but we'll figure it. We're going to navigate that too. So we're getting creative on our end as well, and just practicing our confidence. So just appreciate your time today. Can I add anything?
No, except for that I love you.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Thank you. I'm coming in. Bye.